We all know the feeling, the sting of rejection, the shame of a project that didn't fly, the quiet heartbreak of a connection that frayed and broke apart. Failures, setbacks, faceplants, I call them the rumble. It's that messy, uncomfortable, and often painful process of getting back on our feet after we've been knocked down. But here's the truth I've learned from years of research. The magic isn't in avoiding the fall. The magic is in learning how to rise. It's about having the courage to show up and be seen, even when we can't control the outcome. It's about being brave enough to rumble with our own stories. Let me tell you about a man named J.K. Rowling. Before she created a world of wizards that captured the hearts of millions, she was a single mother living on state benefits. She has described this period of her life as a monumental failure. Her marriage had imploded, she was jobless, and she felt like the biggest failure she knew. She sent her manuscript for Harry Potter to 12 different publishers, and every single one rejected it. It would have been so easy to put that story in a drawer forever, but she didn't. She chose to see her failure not as an endpoint, but as a stripping away of the unessential. She had a rock bottom, and she decided to build her new life on it. That is the essence of rising strong. So, what is a setback? At its core, a setback is a moment when reality does not meet our expectations. It's the gap between what I thought would happen and what actually happened. You expected an A on the exam, but you got a C. You expected the promotion, but it went to someone else. You expected to grow old with someone, and now you are navigating a breakup. The fall itself is the event, but the pain, the shame, and the fear that follow, that's the emotional impact of the setback, and that is what often keeps us down long after the initial event is over. It feels so hard because it strikes at the heart of our sense of worthiness. When we fail, our brains are wired to make sense of it. They often fill the gaps with shame. I failed the test. I am a failure. I am not smart enough. My business idea didn't work. I don't have what it takes. I'm an imposter. These shame narratives are insidious. They whisper we are flawed. They whisper we are not enough. They whisper we should hide our failure. Our bodies experience failure as a threat. Your heart races, your stomach clenches, your mind goes into overdrive, replaying the moment. This is your nervous system trying to protect you. Stay small, stay safe. But here is the foundational truth. We cannot get back up without first acknowledging that we are down. The only way out is through. Let's talk about the creative arena. This is a place where we're often at our most vulnerable, pouring our hearts into something we've made and then offering it up for judgment. I once worked with a talented graphic designer. Let's call her Maria. She had spent months developing a branding proposal for a major client. It was her big shot, the project she believed would finally elevate her career. She worked nights and weekends polishing every detail until it was perfect. She walked into the presentation feeling confident, proud, and hopeful. She was all in. She was in the arena, daring greatly. The presentation did not go well. The clients were polite but dismissive. They called her ideas safe, uninspired. The feedback was a gut punch. She felt the floor drop out from under her. She drove home in a daze, the client's words replaying in her mind. By the time she walked through her front door, the shame narrative was already in full swing. I'm a fraud. I have no real talent. They saw right through me. For 2 weeks, she couldn't bring herself to open her design software. But a small part of her, the part that still loved to create, started to get curious. This realization was a revolution. It unlocked a new path forward. Now let's step into a different kind of arena, our relationships. These are the places where our need for connection and belonging is on the line, making the falls feel incredibly threatening. Think about David, a man in his late 20s who was deeply in love with his partner. They had been together for 3 years. He was sure she was the one. He had started to imagine their future together, marriage, a house, a life intertwined. Then, one evening, she told him it was over. She didn't feel the same way anymore. The breakup was sudden and devastating. For David, it was an absolute failure. His immediate reaction was to offload the hurt. First, he blamed her, cold and unfair. Then, when the anger subsided, he turned the blame inward. The shame story started. There is something wrong with me. I am unlovable. I wasn't good enough for her. I will never be good enough for anyone. This narrative is a classic defense mechanism. If we can convince ourselves that we are inherently flawed, It gives us a false sense of control. It's a painful story, but it's a simple one. It's easier than rumbling with the messy, complex truth of a relationship ending. The reckoning came when his brother, seeing his pain, sat him down and said, "I miss you. Talk to me." In that moment of connection, David finally let himself be vulnerable. He was beginning to own his story. The first step in turning any failure into an opportunity is what I call the reckoning. You cannot rise from a fall you do not acknowledge. The reckoning is the simple yet incredibly brave act of saying to yourself, "I am in pain." Give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Instead, get curious. Name the emotion. Disappointment, embarrassment, grief. Capture the shitty first draft, the story you are telling yourself. Write it down. Say it into your phone's voice memos. Example: I got passed over for the team lead position. I feel humiliated. The story I'm telling myself is that my boss thinks I'm not a leader and I'll be stuck in this role forever. That's it. You've started. One of the biggest barriers to the reckoning is our tendency to numb our emotions. We live in a culture that tells us to suck it up, move on, and stay positive. So we scroll through our phones, have an extra glass of wine, or bury ourselves in work. Anything to avoid feeling the sharp edges of our disappointment. But numbing is a blunt instrument. When we numb the hard feelings, we inadvertently numb the good ones too. The reckoning requires us to put down our numbing tools and just be with the discomfort for a moment. The reckoning is an act of defiance against shame. It is the moment you decide that you are the author of your life, not the victim of your circumstances. Once you've reckoned with your emotions and the story you're telling yourself, it's time to rumble. The rumble is the heart of the process. It's where we challenge the conspiracies, confabulations, assumptions. It's the part where we get curious. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment. We are willing to explore the possibility that our initial story isn't the whole truth. The rumble requires us to separate the facts from the stories we've layered on top of them. The fact is, my boss gave the project to my colleague. The story is, my boss thinks I'm incompetent and is trying to sideline my career. The fact is, my partner ended our relationship. The story is, I am unlovable and will end up alone. During the rumble, you must question that story. Is it true that your boss thinks you're incompetent? Is there any other possible explanation? Could it be about budget, about timing, about your colleague's specific skill set? You don't have to find the definitive answer, but you do have to challenge the certainty of your shame-based narrative. The rumble is where we find the gold in the rubble of our failure. We uncover key learnings, growth opportunities that will ultimately allow us to rise stronger. After the reckoning and the rumble, we arrive at the revolution. This is the final and most transformative stage. The revolution is where you take all the insights and learnings from your rumble and integrate them into your life. It's about writing a new, braver ending to your story of failure. This new ending is not a fairy tale where the failure magically disappears. Instead, the failure becomes a pivotal part of your journey toward more courage, compassion, connection. It's the moment the setback becomes a setup for a comeback. Maria's old story, the clients were wrong and I'm a genius. Maria's new story, rejection taught me my best work comes when I share my boldest ideas. From now on, I will lead with courage, not with the desire to please. David's old story, I will never love again. David's new story, heartbreak taught me honest communication and presence in relationships. I am now better equipped to build a healthier, more authentic connection. Writing this new ending is an act of courage and creativity. It requires choosing a different narrative than the one shame handed you. This new story should promote growth and self-compassion. The failure becomes an opportunity when it changes your behavior. It's the catalyst that transforms you. You have successfully turned your fall into a flight. So how do you put this into practice in your own life right now? Let's make it simple. Think of the process in 3 clear, actionable steps. Reckon, rumble, revolution. This is a framework you can apply to any failure, big or small. A failed exam, a difficult conversation with your partner, or a project that falls flat at work. It's a practice, not a perfect science. It's a muscle you build over time, strengthening your resilience with every fall you navigate with intention. Step 1. The reckoning. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Get specific. Name the emotion. Capture the shitty first draft. The story you are telling yourself. Example: I got passed over for the team lead position. I feel humiliated. Step 2. The rumble. Now challenge that story. Look for assumptions and exaggerations. Question the narrative. Step 3. The revolution. Based on what you learned in the rumble, write a new ending. What is the key lesson from this failure? This is how failure becomes fuel. In the end, we must remember that a wholehearted life is not a life without failure. It is a life lived in the arena with the courage to show up and be seen. Setbacks are not an indictment of your worth. They are the price of admission for a life of engagement, purpose, connection. They are evidence that you are trying, that you are in the game. And while the fall will always hurt, it does not have to be the end of the story. It can, in fact, be the beginning of the most important part. There is a Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The belief is that the piece is more beautiful and more valuable for having been broken. Our failures, our heartbreaks, our mistakes become the golden seams that make us stronger. They are the marks of a life fully lived. So the next time you find yourself on the ground, breathless from a fall, I hope you remember this. And you can, and you will, rise strong.